life is such a blur. Email details, more stuff. My business is consuming me. Am I really living? When do I get to do what energizes me and enjoy the rewards? Welcome to your second life. All is now doing what you love and loving what you do. It's radical creativity. Here's your host, the VIP coach, John Davidson.
John Davidson. Folks, thank you very much. Appreciate all the listeners of the VIP Coach. You're listening to Coach JD, and we are here. It is February, and it is the day before my birthday. Hey, I was born on February 26th, and very excited. I'm going to be 43 tomorrow, and just enjoying a 15-year run, a great run in a coaching career, coaching high-performing entrepreneurs to becoming radically more creative. You know, you're here because you have decided to be a radical creative. And a radical creative is one who makes a lifestyle choice. That's right. A lifestyle choice to become a predominant creative force in your life. Now, see, that's a choice. That's a very, very powerful choice. That gets at the root of how you play the game of life. There are those that will say, you know, JD, I'm going to respond better. I'm going to react better to the circumstances. And that's great for therapy, right? That's great for the spiritual path. It's all about how do we cope? How do we come back with better responses to life? But if you really look at that fundamentally, see, a radical creative is not that. A radical creative is one who says, you know, the circumstances are what they are. I don't have to be at issue with them. I can see them for what they are, I can be in the present moment, and I can use my circumstances as a teacher. But the reason that happens is because I have a place to go. You see, I have bigger business to attend to. I'm going to choose the future that I seek to create. That doesn't mean I know I can have it, because it doesn't exist yet. But I'm going to choose to seek the future instead of respond and react better to the circumstances. That doesn't mean I discount the circumstances. You get my drift. But you're here listening to this show because you're taking personal responsibility. You want to live life on your own terms. Now, that's a choice. You can choose to be healthy. You can choose to be free. You can choose the relationships that you seek to create. You can choose to create what matters to you in your life. And you're here because you want to build a business that does not consume your life. You see, you've become so excellent at something, so great at something, that you've created your very own limitations. You've become prisoner of your own machine. And what you're saying to yourself is, wow, you know, am I really getting the most out of what I'm putting into all this? Is it really, really worth it? You know, at the end of the day, am I getting home by 6 o'clock? Am I a full person? You're probably running into a very, very common crisis, and it is the big crisis today. This is the crisis. And you're probably asking, well, JD, of course, yeah, is that the crisis of global warming? Is that the crisis of too many people without clean drinking water? Yes, those are very clear, clean social crises. But there's another crisis. And I shared a number with you several sessions ago. I shared a very, very disappointing and defining measurement. See, we take measurements to reflect. And it was a measurement of reality in the world, and that is 3 people in the world are committing suicide to 1 person dying. 3 to 1. Is that the indicator of a spiritual crisis? You know what it is, though? It's a personal energy crisis. It's a crisis of personal energy. We do not have the capacity to suit the demand of modern life. We do not have the capacity. How do I know this? I test people all the time. We have hundreds of coaching clients, and we use the best assessments out there to test them physically, to test them mentally, to test them emotionally, and to test them spiritually. So let's talk about those 4. Let's bring those into today's show, because why? You're a whole person. And what you're noticing is you're running on empty lately. You're noticing that you're outnumbered, right? You just don't have enough RAM, personal RAM, to handle everything on your hard drive. Now, the time managers would say, yeah, JD, great. Let's figure out a time management system that will help everything get done. But at the end of the day, are you really, really living? The goal is not about getting everything done. The goal is about the quality of action you're able to exude. The goal is to be able to have involvement, to have pleasurable involvement, to have engagement in what you're doing. You don't want the 4-hour work week. You don't know what the heck you do with all the rest of the time. That's not what you're looking for. Those are for people that are miserable in what they're doing, and they're just looking to eliminate that and think that the other side is going to be better. I've been there, done that. I went on a cruise 20 years ago, and having gone away, and I was in paradise, very, very blessed, mind you. It was wonderful. But there were sides to it where you kind of went, this is getting a little crazy here. I want to move. I want to move with meaning. I want to sense what I can contribute. I want to be able to put my skills into something. I think it's human hunger. We hunger, we're stirred to have a broader context to our life. We are in a personal energy crisis, and we are running into deficits. We have low margin physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I meet this on the road of entrepreneurs. That's why I started my business, was to say, okay, you've got these deficits. You have so much demand. How are you going to capacitate yourself? First, it is a strength to know you have limitations. That's the strength. The strength is knowing that you have bitten off more than you can chew. And by virtue of knowing that you have too many things to finish, too many things to polish, you have too many agreements, too many people circling your life, too many expectations on you, too many emails, you have too many things on your to-do list, you have too many promises that you've made to other people. And so you've become obese in too many tasks. You're too tasked. And we should look at what happens. What happens to you when this goes on? See, you become helpless. There's a chronic frustration that starts to set in. And then what happens is we form an interesting conclusion. We begin to say, well, I have no time. It's not that you don't have any time. It's that you don't have any energy. You have 24 hours in a day. I have 24 hours in a day. The reason it feels that way is you're too distributed. You're pulled in too many directions. You are not a multitasker. There's been plenty of research that has said clearly that humans in their makeup, we're not multitaskers. We were meant to do one, maybe two things at a time, but our minds and our spirits and our emotions and our physical body is pulled in so many ways. How can we meet the demands of modern life? There's just no way we can get to it all. So it's a great strength of knowing that you are limited and that you can't go beyond your capacity. Working another hour in the day, well, that's a diminishing return. That's going to actually create more fatigue, more messes. It's going to create an aggregate breakdown where you're running the red line, the RPM line at your limits. It's hard on your mind. It's hard on your body. It's hard on your children. It's hard on your future. It's a recipe for dread. It inspires dread. So I'm going to give you some things that you can think about, right? Change your thinking first, fundamentally, and perhaps it'll open up some opportunities for you to, one, increase the kind of energy that you need to capacitate with to maybe meet some of the demand better, but do it in a way where you work smarter, not harder. You're listening to the VIP Coach Program. You're either working with me, you're a coaching client, or you're listening to this program. You're a devout follower of the VIP Coach, Radical Creativity. And you want to be a radical creative, but you kind of need a support system. You need to be able to support yourself like a cradle or a cereal bowl that holds the cereal. You need this infrastructure for sustainability. Now, one thing going against you is that more and more people are becoming conditioned to be bigger, better, faster, stronger. We're in a society where we think big. We've been taught to seek impossible dreams, especially in North America, where we have dream seeking and it's talked about on the streets. And so people are setting their sights so big, so far, so beyond, that they really lose sight of where their limits are. And so they begin to kind of organize their lives around an impossible Superman-like quality where they forget they have kryptonite. And they are hypnotized and possessed by personal growth, by human potential movement ideals, by things that they have to live up to because advertisers are making it clear. We have to occupy social roles today, keep up with various societal competition. We have to live in communities that is, quote-unquote, socially acceptable. We live to create an impressive lifestyle. We drive around our net worth. I remember talking to a man once who said that he wanted to build a home outside the country. And he was very, very intent on building a home in another foreign country, a Latin American country, and he wanted to spend most of his time there. There is no such thing as an office anymore. As all of you know, you can work from anywhere. You can organize your life, pretty much design your life to be anywhere you want today. You can take your office with you. There's plenty of entrepreneurs that are out there that are making that bridge available to you. There's umpteen million apps that are helping you become free. You can take advantage of that. So what he does is he goes and moves to that country, but he takes his ideals with him, and he builds himself out of it. He builds a house that is so big and so expensive, and it takes him so much more fiscal pressure and loans to build his ideal lifestyle that he ends up having to do things, go everywhere else, have meetings everywhere. He ended up spending very few months out of the year in the house because he's got to pay this big mortgage payment. This is kind of like where we go, is we can't seem to get into a fulfilling life because we have the ideals of an impressive lifestyle. We have pimp factor, and we have ideals of ourselves that run us amok. They're not consistent with our real values. Folks, our best decisions as entrepreneurs are to make decisions within the lanes of our values. But a lot of us don't really take a look at what matters. I've looked at why that's so. And I've tried to ask myself, why is it that we neglect what matters so much? And it's almost like a frog in a boiling pot of hot water. If we boil the water first and we put the frog in there, the frog's going to jump out. But what we do is we stay in the mild hot water. We stay in the lukewarm water, and little by little, as the burner heats up and heats up, we become immune to the changes. We actually accommodate the changes, and without fail, we become boiled, we get cooked, and we die. And that's kind of what it's like, is that we start not looking at all these things. We become great neglectors and martyrs. And so we get out of balance with things. So instead of being spiritually taking care of other people, we become so, and also taking care of ourselves, we become so immersed in the care of others and contributing to the world and being significant that we neglect ourselves, or we neglect our bodies, or we neglect our families. I find this is so often the case when an entrepreneur has a deep sense of mission and a deep sense of contribution in what they want to bring to the world that the world doesn't have yet, and they become so excessive with this that they turn away from everything they need in order to sustain it. Or a person becomes so beyond in their physical demands that they run themselves amok, going above and beyond what they can do physically, that they never quite rest, they never quite renew, they don't get the right amount of sleep. And so physically they try to work out, or they try to do things for their physical body. They may try to eat the right foods. But for some reason, most of the entrepreneurs that I meet are underslept. They just deny themselves an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a night. And that's because often their minds are so consumed around what they're doing, they just can't seem to get to that sleep. And yet, if they had the sleep, everything else would go well. It's a fundamental base to help every other area go well, but we choose to be underslept. And it's really funny, if I was hungry and I deprived myself of 5 days of food, I'd just be hungry, right? I'd probably be in famine. I would be really uncomfortable. But if I deprive myself of 5 days of sleep, I'm pathological, right? I'm totally off course. I'm totally off course. I can't think clearly. Nothing else works. Whenever we're underslept and we're tired, it's really funny how the whole world gets really stupid, right? Have you noticed that? That everybody around us just seems to get stupid because we're underslept, and yet we forget that we're just looking out through the lens of an underslept mind, and therefore everybody tends to disappoint us, and no one wants to work for an underslept boss. We're just not in the right mood. We're not approachable. We don't think clearly. We're more likely to make up mistakes and messes that cause us more and more reactionary work later on. Or emotionally, we get so caught in the negative emotions that we feel. We manufacture stress, or we manufacture out of our own thinking negative emotions that are the underside of compassion and understanding and generative love and receptive love that create very positive chemistry in us, but yet we fall into judgment, and we fall into cynicism, we fall into negative emotional patterns that are destructive. And so we have that going on. We're very, very complex. We're really walking complexities. Human beings have so many conflicting structures that it actually is very difficult to fit it all together, considering all the demands of modern life and the internal world that is very little of the time coherent, very unevenly matched between these four elements: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And so mentally, we're just totally taxed. We have unique abilities on one hand, but we become perhaps overconsumed by our own unique abilities. We become so caught in the undertow of our strengths that we fail to bring forth some of the skill sets that we love doing and yet we aren't very good at. And so we build up our pride to such a degree we're so confident that we neglect certain activities and skills that are commensurate with our goals. So what you're probably noticing is there's a polarity, there's an opposite in each one of these. And if we embrace those opposites and we live in a moderated way, we can find some sense of pleasure and involvement in what we're doing that is geared to create sustainable energy, that's geared to create endurance. The problem is that most of our patterns are at best short-term time horizons, but we don't take on the kind of habits and thinking, we don't approach life in a way where we can create and build on sustainable energy in ourselves that just builds on itself and offers more revelatory power, revelatory confidence, revelatory hope about the way the future is probably going to trend. Our confidence would be higher the more that we keep these things in mind and come to the truth about our limitations. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to give you some strategies right after the break that's going to help you gain more margin in these areas. They're going to be very, very simple. They're going to be doable. You're immediately going to be able to impact the lives of others, yourself, your family. You're going to be able to impact yourself in many, many areas with some very, very simple yet very powerful things. Remember, big doors swing on little hinges. It's not so much the big things that make a difference. It's the concurrent and frequent little things that cause really big changes. And it's a lot easier that way too anyway. That's very favorable because we're able to implement smaller movements that coherently lead to aggregate changes that increase our quality of life. So I'll be right back. We're going to take a break.
Having a life where you have the creative freedom to do what you love and to offer the world something that only you can bring to the table. That is the world of high-level performance with John Davidson. That is the world of radical creativity. That is the world that you can be a part of when you realize all that is holding you back is you. Begin the journey through one-on-one coaching that gives you the finesse for business and lifetime achievement, and find your place on the roadmap to high-level performance today. Visit highlevelperformance.com. What matters to me? What is my true work? Monetize your passion and enjoy creative freedom with the VIP Coach. You're listening to Radical Creativity with Executive Performance Coach John Davidson.
Okay, we're going to maximize energy. That's our job here in the VIP Coach podcast today. We're maximizing energy, folks. You're here for this show because you want to maintain and sustain endurable creativity. You want to maintain great opportunity for growth and inspiration to move up, move forward, go mobile, go mobile on your goals. It's when we hit these limits physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally that we create our own prisonership of our machine. So I've been talking to you in the first half about what we face and some of the realities of our world and what some of the core crises are that lead to really poor breakdowns in all areas. Remember that defining number. 3 people are committing suicide to 1 person that's dying at the hands of another. I'd really like to see that change, and I think this has a lot to do with it, especially in your role as a leader with so much impact that you can bring to the world, that when you invest in yourself this way, when you invest in yourself physically and mentally, you're really truly, you're honoring your artistic craft, you're helping the world take delivery of the gifts that really belong to them through you. If you don't have physical sustainability, you're flat on your back, you got several million in the bank, I think you get it. You can't enjoy it. So what are you going to do? Well, you've got to make some different choices here. And as I said at the beginning of this podcast, the choice is choosing to be healthy, choosing to be free, choosing to be mentally freed up, choosing to be organizing your life around what really matters to you. So why don't we start with physical? And there's several areas in the physical dimension. One would be nutrition. The second one would be sleep. The third one would be fitness, and the fourth one would be recovery or renewal. Now, the physical energy is the quantity of energy that you have, right? So the quantity of energy is getting you a supply of physical energy from the food you eat, from the sleep that you create for yourself, from the the fitness level, the kind of the movement that you discipline yourself to have in your life, and also what is called renewal. Now, renewal is your quality of rest. It's the way that you balance work and recovery. Just like in athletics, you have muscles that you work, and then you have to rest those muscles. For example, if you do 30, 40 push-ups, you have to wait a period of time for your muscles to reply and shape out of those activities. And it's the same thing with your physical body. So start thinking about what rituals you're going to do. For example, in sleep, how many hours of sleep do you need per night? Decide on how many hours you're going to sleep. Number 2, what's the time that you're going to get to bed nightly? If it's 10 o'clock, then you know what time that is. That tells your brain about an hour before, hey, we're going to be going into that moment where we're going to move on from the day. It's that circadian rhythm, right? That active day rhythm that you have, and then you convert into that restful period that's really geared to take the garbage out. You're actually taking out all the unproductive thoughts, all the useless thinking, the useless and useful artifacts that your brain is sifting through to see what it's going to store. It knows it can't store everything. It's only going to store the things that it thinks is needed. Your brain is kind of a pack rat, but it's a sifter. It sifts and filters through the information and the data that it collected, and then it stores it in the form of concepts. And concepts are the little storage units of the brain, and it's what we draw on as we come upon the present moment to make sense of what's happening. So the brain is there it's in the gear of being right? We want to recognize that we know what's going on. And number 2 is it's there to prevent danger for you. It helps you survive. Those 2 things are blessings and curses. Nevertheless, it must get sleep. So decide on how much time, what time you're going to go to bed, and also what time you're going to be getting up. So you're giving your brain good instructions. I recommend also designing some rituals about an hour before bedtime, such as turn the television off, make a conscious decision to not watch TV and doze off. That is the worst attentional distractibility training. That just adds ADD, attention deficit disorder, to your life. Your brain is going to sleep with a lot of exposure to those images, and it internalizes those images. Think of it like fuzzing up your screen. It really distorts and contorts the filtering process. It's adding several units more to what your brain's trying to do. It puts it on overdrive at night. It doesn't need that. So about an hour before bedtime, discontinue the television and stop watching television. You may want to establish some rituals like prayer or maybe a 15-minute meditation to reflect on the day, what inspired you, what challenged you most, maybe what amazed you, kind of what you retrieved in the day, what maybe touched your heart today, to presence whatever it was that came to your gateway. Anybody new came into your life, any defining moments that you want to commit to your memory, so you actually acknowledge what came to your door. And also in the morning, you may want to do the same, that when you get up, you take 5, maybe 15 minutes, and you just think about what's going on right now, taking stock of what's really going on in your life that's important. What are some of the defining features that are in your life? Who are the more important people in your life? What are some of the best experiences that you're having right now that you need to mine? Those experiences that you want to keep intimate with and stay with and presence and really have the most of. So it's having that opportunity when you get up. I recommend that while you sleep, you find a good pillow, right? You have a good body position so that your neck doesn't get hurt. That way you tell your body that it's safe and that it's really appealing to sleep. When we sleep uncomfortably, when we have a bad mattress, it tells our body we have to go into sort of a pseudo mode. We have to force our sleep. So make it easy. Make it easy for you to get comfortable. You may want to use some ambient music, for example. There's lots of good stuff on iTunes. Look up ambient music. There's nature sounds. There's rain sounds. There's synthesizers. There's dream music. I think that's all very, very helpful because it keeps your mind in a state of knowing that it is in that gear. And it creates a cue system to help you get your head down. You may even want to start the space 30 minutes before, so you begin letting your mind know, hey, we're about ready to cross the threshold, buddy. Let's start turning the lights off, okay? Now, physically, nutrition. There's some very simple ideas around nutrition. One of the drawbacks that I see entrepreneurs create for themselves is they start editing everything they eat in the form of having nothing they want. They really start negating and neglecting things that they absolutely enjoy. And what we found is that this creates a reverse effect, that we actually start starving ourselves. We start buying dietary food that we hate eating. And so if you take a refrigerator audit and find that in your refrigerator most of the things that are in there you'd rather puke than eat, but your discipline is overriding your pleasure, I think you might want to change that. What you might consider is making a grocery list of things that you want, things that you enjoy. Now, I'm not saying going out there and buying a bunch of buckets of ice cream. It's not the idea. It's eating 3 to 5 great meals a day with foods that you absolutely love, foods that you enjoy. What that tells your body is that your body is not going to be starved. It's not going to join the draft of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in famine. You were made to eat things that made you feel full. You were made to eat things that you could pleasurably enjoy. I recommend that the things that you like, you keep unprocessed, right? So whatever it is, make sure that it has less processing. If you like having a good steak, try to find the steak that has less chemicals or hormones in it. If you like corn, find something a little more organic. Increase the quality of your food. It goes a long way. It may cost you a few more bucks, but the quality of it will help you endure and create more years on your life. You want to start telling your body that you want it to be around a while. See, a lot of our habits say to ourselves, I don't want you to be around a while. I'm not planning for you to be around in a while. And I think our minds in some way kind of get the message, and it says, yeah, okay, great, let's get you ill. Let's get you some cancer. Let's get you to this place where you're right. You don't want to be here for a while. And so we kind of make our story come true. We become a self-fulfilling prophecy by telling ourselves a story. I don't want to be here. And all the habits represent that. If we look at ourselves from the balcony, the things that we're putting in our body, we don't want to be here. So should you intake fat? Yes. Your day should be composed of 10, maybe 20% of the good fats, 60% of protein, and the remaining would be about 30% of carbohydrates, not the processed foods with hydrogenated oil. Be careful of those. So if you're going to blow it, if you're going to have some of these pastries or breads, the flour foods, right, the sugar-based foods, have one day a week. Have a blow-it day where you get to have that, because you're going to build up such a craving for that you're going to be binging on it so much that binge is going to cause your insulin levels to overcompensate for the sugar it's trying to sop up. And the insulin levels in your body are directly related with the amount of fat, the amount of glycogen that's stored in your body. So in order to even that insulin out, don't go nuts, but maybe have a day where you are a little more excessive about the things that you probably say to yourself, this is sugar-based or this is bread-based, and even though I really, really like it, I should eat it in moderation. I want it still, I'm going to have it, but I'm going to put it over here, so I honor my likings. I'm going to favor my cravings, but I have a place where I do that. And that way you still do it. You don't have to quiet out those voices. I mean, indeed, there are people that cook great things. I'm a food lover. I like a lot of those things, but I give myself a day where I can go and just go for it, right? Okay, so there's a few guidelines. Also, when you're hungry, make sure and eat, because when you're hungry, your stomach is telling you it needs fuel. Your food is fuel. So prepare in advance so that when you're hungry, drop some almonds, eat some raspberries, eat some blueberries, eat some celery, eat a low-fat yogurt, eat something that you like, eat a fruit, eat an apple, leave the peel on it, eat something that helps you eat when you're hungry, and then you can kind of cruise or graze until you have your next big meal. You may also find that when you eat, you share a lot of your eating experiences. You share your eating with a lot of other activities, and I recommend you don't do that. You turn off your phone, you put it in another room, you turn off everything else, all your stimulation, all of your technology, and you just focus on the food. Even avoid talking so much. A lot of times we talk and we exchange ideas. Food becomes a place of conversation. Leave family matters out of the dinner table. Make a conscious decision that you're going to enjoy the food. The purpose of you sitting down is to eat consciously and to enjoy the food. Remember, chewing the food well and tasting it is the first step in digestion. If you do that better, your body will process the food better, it'll move it through faster, and it'll create less waste. It'll assimilate the things that it needs in a more effective way. So eat consciously. Set your fork, set your spoon down when you eat. That way you'll taste the food. And when you're full, stop. Don't eat with your eyes. Try blindfolding yourself for a week when you eat. I'm serious. I know this sounds funny, but try it. Instead of looking at the food, actually sense the signals in your stomach and take a reading on those signals. When your stomach feels full, it's telling you, don't put more down here, stop. You got to let go of the idea of cheating people out of food in the world. I know you care about eating everything because you feel guilty that other people who don't have food are not going to have it. However, I think this is an important piece, is to realize maybe having some smaller portions is fine. I guarantee you this, that when you start paying attention to your stomach, you will not accept the portions that you're normally used to. Right? So that will naturally acclimate. The more that you get a read on your stomach, you'll have more portion control and say, I just can't eat all that, thank you. I'll divide that into a half. Really, my stomach is going to tell me, I just can't eat the rest. Right? So that'll naturally happen over time. So eat what you want. When you're hungry, eat. Eat consciously, and when you're full, stop. So these are some physical ideas. Emotionally, some things that you can do is to look at how you think more. Be more aware. Use your moments of awareness to look at how the content of your mind, your assumptions, your generalizations, your mental construction. We have a lot of conditioned concepts out of the past through which we filter the present moment. And we tend to be loyal and obedient and biased to our theories about reality as opposed to what reality actually is. We assume other people's intentions. We live out of stories we make up about ourselves, about the world around us, about what other people are thinking of us. Slow down. At night, challenge yourself to write down your mental constructs. Write down the stories through which you're provoking your own emotions. If you got angry, okay, what inside the content of your mind, what were you believing to be true to preserve your integrity, to say no to the idea that you were broken, to say no to the reality that you didn't expect? What caused you to feel trespassed against if you got really affumed or angry? What was it that got you to reach a point where you attacked back? It didn't come from the other person. That's just a blame game. Take an opportunity to discover and explore your own mental campus. Explore that campus in your mind. What's in it? What were you believing? What were you feeling because you believed that way? You see, our thoughts create the feelings that we have, and those feelings lead to actions, emotion, energy into motion, which then usually lands us in a result, and a lot of times the results are inadvertently not what we want. They push against us rather than move with us. So check out your own mental constructs. Spiritually, what really matters to you? You draw energy out of purpose, not what should matter, but what does matter. Take stock once a week of what really did matter to you. Keep a matter factor list and hold sacred what really does matter to you. Make a filter in your life of keeping the actions, the activities, the people, the agreements, the stuff that really does matter, and organize your life around that. That's up to you. You're not being a jerk, a snob, or selfish. In fact, a lot of what matters to you is what really other people need from you. You're very altruistic. There's a lot of love in you for the good of others. But don't get in front of someone doing things that you agree on when you have a superficial urge. Stay true to what matters. Insert people into your life around the things that matter to you. People delight in being around others that are honestly doing the things that matter to them. They love their level of engagement and energy and feel that they're safe around true people that occupy their attention around things that matter and jettison qualities and aspects that do not. That takes some work, daily, weekly, monthly. And so periodically you are checking out what really does and doesn't matter on a relevance continuum. Things that are irrelevant, they need to go, they need to die, they need to jettison, they need to end. Things that need to stay need to be reinforced and swell and focused. Delegate everything except what you enjoy doing. It's a big cliche, a big maxim in business. Great in theory, not easy to do in practice. Having a coach will help you build that bridge to do some competency planning on who else around you or could come around you to take off your plate the things that de-energize you. You have certain skills, habits, activities, environments where your personal gifts rise to the top. Focus those personal gifts at a level commensurate with what your aim is. Take aim within your gifts, but delegate things that you can bring other people into their gifts as well. Balance it out. When you ask for help and you take things off your plate, you're giving someone else an opportunity to self-actualize. They can bring their personal gifts to the world. They can bring what doesn't belong to them to the other people. They can connect with their community. So it's a huge part. There'll be more about this. I'm going to do a 2 or 3 part series here in the show. So our March show will also be about energy management. But you can already start here. Start with some sleep habits. Remember those 3 decisions. What time? How long? When am I going to get up? We talked about food intake. Eat what you want. When you're hungry, eat. Eat consciously. And when you are full, stop. Right? And that in the day, you need to be conscious about how you recover from the intensity. What kind of breaks are you taking? We'll talk about that next time. Spiritually, what matters to you? Emotionally, what are your mental models? Being aware, holding a moment of awareness of knowing that most of your emotional state comes from inside of you. What are you thinking right now? What are you assuming right now? Your thoughts produce feelings that provoke actions that lead to certain results. Unwind that. If you had a result that you didn't like, go back. What was the action I took? What was the motion that I had that brought that action out? And what was the thought that gave rise to that emotion? You'll get down to some very clear thinking and underlying assumptions where you added meanings or interpretations to what was going on, and you moved out of that bias. You reflexed off of it. You can stop that. You can make a different choice. You can shift the quality of your choices in a new direction by having a quarter of a second awareness between what you would react about and what you wouldn't. Just by holding a moment of awareness of asking what is really going on and am I fully present to what I'm thinking. You can befriend your thinking. You can watch your thoughts. It's a delightful practice. So this will be our show for today, folks. I hope there was some great learning in this for you. Remember, your identity is not work. Just because you chose to be an entrepreneur, you'll never find a fulfillment. You'll never find the fullness in just being identified with your work. Don't hide in your work to substitute the rest of it. Look into these other areas of your life. You're a whole person. You have a technicolor life. You can bring it all together. Know that you have a limitation. You have a personal energy crisis. Be honest with yourself. By knowing that you have limits and knowing what you want, you can begin to nourish yourself, make choices on behalf of what you really can do. It's not about being practical. It's about capacitating yourself, but working smart, not hard. You don't want to create your own burnout. You want to create your own creative endurance. In the VIP Coach Program, we have structures, habits, perspectives to help the entrepreneurs acquire the habits, the support system, the kind of relationships, and the kind of business model and prototype that lead to this kind of freedom physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. They're able to get a lot more done because they have this sense of full engagement in what they're doing. They just want to love what they do and do what they love. And in order to do that, they need the kind of infrastructure to maintain that kind of growth pattern. So where's your growth curve? Is it stemming downwards because you're running out of action, you're running out of energy? Take a closer look. You might just be running into despair and running on empty. What's the point of all of it? What's the point of all of it? Create a business that serves your life, not consume it. We'll see you next month. Thank you very much. If you'd like more information about high-level performance, go to highlevelperformance.com or find our books online. Look up John Davidson as the author, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
For more tools on how to liberate your gifts, become more valuable, and on purpose through radical creativity with executive performance coach John Davidson, visit highlevelperformance.com and be sure to follow John on Facebook. Check back soon to continue the journey toward radical creativity.